Hey there, this is Zach from Coherence, and I'm going to give you a demo of our product. Coherence is an internal developer platform for your AWS or GCP account built by a best-in-class platform engineering team. The most popular use case for Coherence is preview environments for all your branches, so we'll start there. During setup, you can see I have two different cloud accounts, in this case for an AWS application. But we support this best practice workflow for both AWS and Google Cloud Platform. I have one account for my non-production workloads that we call preview, and another account for my production workloads that we call production. In preview, I have integration branches, which are branches that I cannot archive or pause. They're the branches I always expect to be around. On a GitHub flow app like this app is using, you'd have main or master, some other trunk branch name. And if you're using Git flow, you might have branches like develop or staging instead. For this demo, I also have a few branch previews set up for features my team is working on, new branch 1 and demo 0809. I also have a staging environment for pre-production testing of work that is not yet merged to my integration branch or that I otherwise need a stable environment for. And I also have a production environment in my production account. Depending on your workflow, you'll have some of these same environment types on your team. If we look at GitHub, what I have is a PR open for a branch, new branch 1 that matches one of my preview environments. And what you can see here is that I've made some changes to my branch, copy changes, making changes. And you'll see the Coherence preview URL is present right in this comment, along with the deployment status and a link to the Coherence feature. This means my developers won't have to go anywhere to use this information, and it fits right into their existing workflow. If I click on the link, we'll see the deployed branch environment in AWS. You could imagine your designers or product managers making use of this functionality to work with your engineering team seamlessly. I can auto-enable a setting in Coherence, which will create Coherence previews for every branch that I make a PR for without having to go to the UI. And if I go back and start looking at what's in one of these Coherence branch previews, we'll see that I have a list of builds. Every time I push to that GitHub branch, I'm going to generate a new build, which has various stages based on what's configured in my Coherence YAML. And you can see all these moving pieces working together to create a best practice workflow seamlessly for your development team. The last thing that happens is anytime a build finishes, I get an update in a Slack channel that I configure in my Coherence settings page with links to all the relevant information that I might need in order to work with the application. Again, meeting you where your development team is, not just in our UI. And the example for that setting is very simple, just here on the Coherence settings page. Going back to the Coherence UI for this feature, we can see that I can also seamlessly manage environment variables for my application, including default variables for all preview environments and environment overrides for specific environments, as well as environment variables for just this environment, as well as auto-generated Coherence environments with useful values like the domain and name that we're running on in this case. Going back to my preview account, I'm also able to easily see the infrastructure logs for the history of changes that Coherence has made to my account as I add and remove environments, sort of like a GitOps repo automatically managed for you with seamless infrastructure as code. So that was a quick whirlwind tour of our preview branch functionality. Now I'm going to show you how I would use static environments like staging or production, which don't track a branch automatically. What I would do is come to a build, let's say on the branch we just looked at. Let's say I've tested this, and I know I want to make sure that it works with some third-party integrations that are configured to only talk to one URL, in this case, my staging environment URL. What I can do is go ahead, promote to staging. It's going to tell me which environment it's promoting to. I can confirm that. Obviously, this is all seamlessly integrated with role-based access controls for your team, so you can control who can promote to which environments. And we'll see a new build generating, just like if I'd pushed to the branch we looked at earlier. And this will do the same thing with Slack notifications that branch previews do from Coherence automatically. Deploying to your production environment will look the same as what we just did for staging, just like this, but is going to promote to your production account. So we see the build queued for that right here. Generally, people love the promotion workflow we've offered them. It fits their workflows, no matter what they are, really nicely. Now, I'm going to show you some additional functionality. Our SSH terminal for managing cloud resources called the Toolbox, and our cloud development environment called the Workspace. The use case for the Toolbox is if I need to get a REPL for my database or run a data inspection command in a deployed environment, run some other command in my AWS or GCP deployment for this branch or for any of the static environments we've looked at, this makes it easy for my team to do that without mixing up environments and without having raw credentials on everybody's workstations. Using the toolbox is as simple as starting one, opening the Cloud Shell right in my browser, and we've got plenty of examples in our documentation of the kinds of commands you can run here that our customers find useful. The second thing we're going to look at is the Workspace, which is a browser-based IDE just for this application. If I click on Open Workspace, I'll find a running development server where I can preview all the changes that I make on my application before pushing them to GitHub. For example, I could make a change like this, click on the preview link, see that it's working as I expected, and then use the GitHub integration that Coherence has already set up for me to commit this, in this case with a bad commit message. I can save all the extensions, plugins, and themes I need for VS Code in my Coherence profile, so they're always ready for me. And remember, the branch environment in AWS doesn't update until you push like we just did. So going back to our feature page on Coherence, we see the new build came in from the push we just made, and this deployed URL will update when the build finishes, notify us in GitHub and in Slack, just like we looked at earlier. So that's the Workspace workflow. Both the toolbox and the Workspace are per user, per branch. And so you can have as many of these on all your different previews as you want, whether those are created via the GitHub PR integration or just created in our UI. And that's the last thing I'm going to show you today, is that on the preview UI, you can go ahead and create a new preview for either an existing branch or a new branch, just like this, even if the branch doesn't exist yet. And that will give me a new preview on Coherence, including the toolbox and Workspace that we just looked at. It's really powerful stuff. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to giving your team world-class tools like these without having to build them all yourself. We can have you live in just a few short hours, and we're very hands-on during onboarding. So get in touch.